Hello everyone, my name is Iris. Thank you so much for clicking this video and welcome to my YouTube channel. I thought I'd make this video to share a detailed and honest review on an ayahuasca retreat center that I attended in Peru. The retreat center that I'm going to be discussing is called Arkana Spiritual Centre, and I've actually been to this retreat center twice. The first time being back in September of 2022 and the most recent being this past April. So just to give you a very brief overview on Arkana, they're a very established retreat center as they've been around for quite some time now and are very well known in the ayahuasca community. You can also find tons of helpful and positive reviews online. So Arkana has 3 locations, one in the Amazon jungle, one in the Sacred Valley, and one in Mexico. And they're currently in the process of building a 4th location in Costa Rica, which, if I'm not mistaken, is set to open in about a year or 2 from now. So the location I attended on both occasions was the one in the Sacred Valley, and I'm going to be going over my reason for choosing this particular retreat center as well as location. I'm also going to be covering things such as the logistics of getting there, what's included in the week, facilities and accommodation, food and diet, as well as my overall experience. For the purpose of this video, I won't be going into too much detail regarding the ceremony nights, as I do intend on making separate videos on this topic on its own. At the end, I'll also include some useful tips that I think you may find helpful as well. So perhaps you're somebody who has been looking into different ayahuasca retreat centers, or perhaps you've already narrowed down your choices and Arkana is one of them, but you're just looking for more information, or maybe you're just curious about what a week at an ayahuasca retreat entails. Then I think you may find this video helpful, as I do know firsthand how overwhelming it can get when trying to find a retreat center to go to, especially with all the different options out there. So I'm hoping this video will help make your decision-making process a little easier for you. So when I came to the realization that it was finally time for me to embark on my journey with ayahuasca, there were 3 main factors that went into my decision-making process when I was deciding on a retreat center to go to. And the number one most important being my overall safety as a solo female traveler, because I knew that whenever it would come my time to do ayahuasca, that I personally felt it was something that I needed and wanted to experience on my own. And considering that I'd be traveling to a country I'd never been to before, and ultimately consuming a substance that I had never taken before, because while I do have experience with NN-DMT, I'd never actually drank ayahuasca prior to this. So I just wanted to ensure that I was going to feel as safe and supported as possible throughout the duration of my experience and journey. Secondly, I knew that whenever it would come my time to do ayahuasca, that I wanted to do it in a country that the medicine was indigenous to, as it was important to me that the ceremonies be held by the indigenous tribe that works directly with this medicine. So in my case, I ended up choosing Peru, and the indigenous tribe that works with ayahuasca in Peru is the Shipibo tribe. And the third point being overall comfortability, because knowing that ayahuasca can be a pretty physically uncomfortable experience, I just wanted to ensure that I was going to limit any additional factors that could make the process any more uncomfortable than it needed to be. So with all that being said, I ended up choosing the Sacred Valley because it gave me a little more peace of mind, just knowing that if God forbid something were to happen and I needed to leave immediately for whatever reason, I wouldn't necessarily be able to do so as freely at the Amazon location, because you do have to take into account that the retreat is located in the middle of the jungle, which would require you to take a 1.5 hour to 2 hour boat ride to get back to the main town of Iquitos. Whereas in the Sacred Valley, if I needed to leave for whatever reason, I could do so more freely simply by just calling a taxi and be on my way. So what initially drew me to Arkana in the first place was the fact that they work closely and directly with traditional Shipibo shamans, and they are the ones who are holding the ayahuasca ceremonies with the help of the facilitators who are there to support and guide you throughout the duration of the week and during ceremony nights with whatever you may need. It is my understanding that it's mainly a family of shamans working at Arkana, with the head shaman being Maestra Justina, who lives and works in the jungle alongside her husband, children, and other family members. And all of the shamans working at Arkana are very highly skilled and highly trained. From my understanding, they've all been trained and apprenticed under Maestra Justina, who is a very respected and revered shaman in the jungle, in her community. And she's completed many master plant dietas, which is a very important aspect of becoming an ayahuasquero. And from what I heard, she's completed master plant dietas stemming from 1 to 2 years length and in complete isolation in the jungle. So I can't even believe or imagine how difficult and challenging that must have been for her. But one thing I do know is that the shamans working at Arkana are all very highly skilled and highly trained. You will be in really great care there. And yeah, they just all carry so much wisdom, so much knowledge that has been passed down throughout the generations. And now touching back on the point of overall comfortability, as mentioned, ayahuasca can be a pretty physically uncomfortable experience. And what I mean by this is that you may be purging in various forms, such as vomiting, having to go number 2. You may find yourself laughing, crying, yawning. You may find yourself feeling very hot or very cold during ceremony. And these are all very normal forms of purging. And knowing that the jungle came with its own unique set of challenges, such as the heat and humidity, and let's not forget the bugs and mosquitoes, as essentially you would be a guest in their natural habitat and home. Yeah, with all that in mind, I just felt the Sacred Valley would be the best option to suit my needs at the time. However, this last time I went in April, I was highly considering going to the jungle. It was actually my first choice because this time around I now had some experience with the medicine. I knew how my body reacted to it. I knew I could handle it, and ultimately I knew I would be in safe hands at Arkana. However, it really just came down to a planning issue, as I had managed to get a flight with points direct from my city to Lima, and those flights were only leaving on Wednesdays, and unfortunately it didn't align with the rest of my trip dates and plans, as well as the retreat dates. So yeah, unfortunately it didn't work out. And to me, it just felt like I was being guided back to the Sacred Valley, which honestly I didn't mind at all, because I truly love the Sacred Valley. I fell in love with it even more this time around. It's such a special, magical place. It really lives up to its name, Sacred Valley. You really do feel the sacredness of the land and the people while you are there. But yeah, you know, from what I heard from other fellow participants who have been to both locations, they have all said the same thing, that there is a sort of magic that comes with knowing you're being in the place where the medicine is growing. You're in the place where it's being brewed, being in ceremony at night, and hearing all the wildlife come to life is something that one must experience at least once in their lifetime. But yeah, unfortunately this time for me, it didn't work out. I'm hoping that at some point in the future, if I ever go back, it will be to the Amazon location. So if you're someone like me who shares the same concerns I had initially regarding overall safety and overall comfortability, then by all means, I highly recommend going to the Sacred Valley, because you won't have to worry about any of that there. But if you're someone who doesn't necessarily share those same concerns, then by all means, I highly recommend you go to the jungle for the first time. I know it will be an amazing experience and you will not regret it. Now I'm gonna be going over the logistics of getting there. So as I mentioned, the retreat is located in the heart of the Sacred Valley, which offers stunning mountainous views and is nestled along the Urubamba River. It's about an hour-and-a-half drive from Cusco, depending on traffic. And Arkana does recommend that you arrive into Cusco at least one day prior to the start of the retreat, just to give yourself some time to ground and explore the town if you wish to do so. So the start of the retreat is Sunday, and the pickup will be at a hotel called Tierra Viva Cusco Centro. And though it's not mandatory, Arkana does recommend that you book a night stay at this hotel just to make things easier for you the morning of pickup. Now, in regards to the flights, this last time I went in April, I booked an overnight direct flight from my city to Lima. So I arrived pretty early into Lima, and I had a couple hours to kill at the airport before my second flight to Cusco, which I booked separately. But that flight from Lima to Cusco, it's only about 50 minutes, so it's super quick. Whereas the first time I went, I did have a stopover in Panama, and I arrived pretty late into Lima, and I was not able to find a flight from Lima to Cusco at that time. So I did pre-book a night stay at the airport hotel in Lima, which is located directly outside the airport entry doors, so literally a few steps away. The great thing about this hotel is that you don't have to worry about taking a taxi into town. You don't have to worry about rushing back to the airport if you have an early morning flight. You can simply just walk a few steps and you will be at the airport. Another great thing is that breakfast is included at this hotel. So once you arrive into Cusco, you will then take an airport taxi to get to your hotel. So if you decide to stay at the hotel I mentioned, it's only about a 15-minute to 20-minute drive depending on traffic. The great thing about this hotel is that check-in is at 12 p.m. So if you're arriving early, you don't have to worry about like killing time before check-in. You can just check in. So both times that I went to Arkana, I did stay at the Tierra Viva Cusco Centro Hotel for 6 days prior to the start of the retreat, just so that I could have plenty of time to ground, explore the city of Cusco and surrounding areas, to do excursions, to go shopping, especially because Peru has always been a bucket list destination of mine. I just wanted to make the most out of the trip. So I highly recommend you do the same if you have the time to spare, because you do have to remember that you are going to be traveling quite a ways to get to Peru in the first place, depending on where you're located in the world. So you might as well make the most out of it, especially because there's just so much to see and do in Cusco and in the Sacred Valley. Yeah, it's just such an amazing place. And the great thing about this hotel is that it's only about a 10-minute walk to the main square, and you also have tons of restaurants and shops right outside of your doorstep. But more importantly, I felt very safe at this hotel. I found the staff to be very friendly, accommodating, helpful. Anytime I needed a taxi anywhere, they were more than willing to call one for me, which was great because I didn't have to worry about just jumping into any random taxi on the street. They would just call one for me. And if you're curious about what the safety is like in Cusco, it is a very safe town. There wasn't at any point in my trip that I felt unsafe, especially as a solo female traveler. But of course, you know, take the necessary standard safety precautions that you would traveling anywhere in the world or even in your own city. You know, like don't wear flashy jewelry or clothing, don't carry valuables with you, keep your phone close to you, and also dress appropriately and respect the local culture there. Oh yeah, and one thing I forgot to mention about the hotel is that breakfast is complimentary, and you can find items that they serve that fall in line with the ayahuasca diet, so that's very helpful as well. So now I'm going to be covering what's included at a week at Arkana. So the both times I went, I booked the 6 nights, 7 days shared accommodation option, which includes your accommodation and food for the week, your transportation to and from the hotel pickup point in Cusco. It includes 3 ayahuasca ceremonies, 1 Wachuma San Pedro cactus ceremony. It includes a day trip to the salt mines, a rapé ceremony, and then all the activities in between, such as yoga, breath work, and meditation, and some other things as well. What it doesn't include are your return flights to and from Peru or your accommodation at the hotel pickup point. Arkana also does offer additional add-ons at an additional cost. They offer things such as a excursion to Machu Picchu. They offer a Sapo 5-MeO DMT ceremony. They offer massage therapy, light therapy, and I think there's one other thing I might be missing. But yeah, those are the additional add-ons. And I can't speak too much on this because the only add-on that I ever did was the first time I went in 2022, I did the trip to Machu Picchu, which I found to be great and highly recommend, because essentially Arkana does all the planning for you. All you have to do is show up with your passport. They even pack a little lunch to go, which is really cute. And yeah, you know, because when I was booking my trip initially, I read that planning the trip to Machu Picchu can get a little stressful because you do have to book your entry tickets and train tickets very well in advance because they sell out very quickly. So yeah, I just didn't want to be bothered with all that. So when I found out that Arkana offered that as an add-on, I just decided to do it through them. And honestly, it turned out to be such an amazing experience. And not only that, it's a very great bonding experience with your fellow participants. And it's really nice because you can take pictures there and everything. So yeah, I highly recommend it. In regards to the Sapo ceremony, though I didn't partake, it seemed like the majority of people who were on the retreat did partake in that ceremony. And it seemed like they all had a very great experience. But the reason why I didn't do it was because the first time I went in 2022, I had initially planned to do it in Mexico, like about a month after returning from the retreat. So that's what I did. But as I said, it seems like the majority of people who go do partake in this ceremony. So yeah, it's definitely a good option if that's something that you're interested in doing. So now I'm gonna be going over the cost of the retreat. So currently the retreat costs 3,000 USD, whereas the first time I went, it was 2,500 USD. So the price had gone up between that time, which was expected due to inflation. The great thing about Arkana is that they do offer a 10% discount to returning guests, which is very helpful. Another thing to note is that the jungle location is cheaper. It's 2,500 USD, but the difference is that for the shared accommodation, there will be 3 people in a room as opposed to the 2 people in the Sacred Valley. And in regards to the payment, you will pay half at the time of booking as a deposit, and then the other half you will pay in person in cash, USD, and all the notes have to be crisp without any tears. Now, I know that 3,000 US dollars is a significant amount of money. There is no denying this. However, how I was able to justify paying this was that the way I see it is that you cannot put a price on healing, especially considering just how life-changing the whole experience is. Essentially, you are receiving a lifetime of therapy in a very condensed period of time, literally within 1 week. And just to give you an example, here in Canada, though healthcare is covered, you're looking at least 1 to 2 years wait to get in to see a psychiatrist for therapy. And once you are approved for that, the therapy sessions are limited. And then if you're considering private sessions with a therapist, you're looking at paying at least $150 and up per hour. And don't get me wrong, I am not knocking therapy by any means. I'm a very huge advocate for therapy. I've been in therapy at different points in my life. However, for where I am at this time in my life, I was just ready to get directly to the root of my issues and traumas, and I just wanted to face them head on. And ayahuasca is the perfect medicine to do just that, because you're essentially forced to face and sit with any issues and traumas that arise. So yeah, that's definitely something to consider. You just want to make sure that if you are considering doing ayahuasca, that you are 100% ready for this experience, because yeah, there are times where it can feel and get a little challenging. But yeah, that's my reason and justification for paying that significant amount of money. So now I'm going to be going over the facilities and accommodation. So what I'd been told was that Arkana was actually previously a hotel that had been converted into a retreat center. And though the rooms are not super luxurious by any means or anything, to me, I found them to be very nice, comfortable, had a rustic touch, and had everything I needed for the week. So a shared accommodation includes 2 separate beds and a shared bathroom with a toilet, sink, and shower. So the great thing about having a bathroom in your room is, especially after a long night in ceremony, when you just want to go back to your room and stand under the warm water, that came in very handy, and I didn't have to worry about leaving my room to do that. So yeah, that was definitely a great option to have the bathroom in the room. And if you're curious about what it's like to share a room with someone you don't know, for me personally, I truly enjoyed having a roommate. One of the main reasons why I chose this option was because it really gives you an opportunity to connect and bond on a much deeper level with the person that you're sharing a room with, because you really find yourself leaning on each other for support throughout the duration of the week, which is really nice. And it's just really nice to be able to go back to your room after ceremony and have like a quick debrief about what happened during the night and then the following morning and throughout the course of the week. So yeah, and honestly, I've been very lucky and blessed to have had 2 really amazing roommates. We just got really close throughout the week, and to this day we still keep in touch with each other. So yeah, I honestly highly recommend it as an option, but if that's not something that you are really into, then there's still an option of having your own room. But yeah, it does cost a little more, but that is still an option. And now in regards to the grounds, so the grounds themselves are very beautiful, full of lush, beautiful greenery. There's mountains in the background and the river flowing below. And one of the highlights for me during the week was after every ceremony night and stepping outside of the temple room and then just seeing the beautiful mountain in the background, hearing the river flowing, and then looking up towards the sky and seeing all the stars and the moon just shining was such an incredible feeling. And then walking back to my room and just breathing in the air, like honestly, it was just such a highlight for me. So yeah, the grounds there are beautiful. There are several different communal areas in the space as well. There's an area with hammocks, there's picnic tables, and to be honest, the grounds do look quite small, but for me personally, like I never found it to be an issue. If I needed any time alone or away, like I always found a space to be able to just hang out by myself, so it was never an issue or anything. So now I'm going to be going over the ceremonies and the ceremonial space. So as I mentioned, Arkana includes 3 ayahuasca ceremonies. So the first one is on Monday night, second one is on Tuesday night, and then the final ceremony is on Thursday night. The ceremonies start around 8 p.m. if I remember correctly, and they usually finished around 1:30 or 2 a.m. After the ceremony finishes, the lights then turn on, and then the facilitators go around handing out refreshments like tea and fruits, and at that point you're allowed to talk amongst each other. Now in regards to the ceremonial space, or what Arkana calls the temple room, it is one long rectangular shaped hall or room, as opposed to your standard round shaped malokas that you'll find at most ayahuasca retreats. To be honest, the space, it does look quite small and feels quite intimate, but just to give you an idea, the first time I went, there were 22 of us in total. That was including the maestros and the facilitators. And then this time I went in April, there were 11 participants, the maestro and maestra, and then the 2 facilitators there. So it was a much smaller group this time. And when comparing it to the first time with the larger group, honestly, I didn't really notice a difference. I didn't find it to be, the space to be too small or anything like that. So it definitely wasn't an issue. Another thing to note is that there are 2 bathrooms located in the temple room. So it's literally only a few steps away from wherever your bed is located in the ceremony, which is great because you don't have to worry about having to leave to use the bathroom. You simply can just walk a few steps and then you'll be at the bathrooms. And the facilitators are always there throughout the duration of ceremony for whatever you need. They're there to help you even walk back and forth to the bathroom, so you don't have to worry about that. And funny enough, the first time I went, like as I mentioned, there were 22 of us in total, and only one bathroom was functioning that whole week. And I'm somebody who has a very sensitive tummy and digestive system, and this was actually an initial concern of mine before even going to the retreat, was like the whole bathroom situation. But surprisingly enough, it kind of just all worked itself out, because there was never once where there was a line for the washroom. Yeah, like no one was waiting in line for the washroom at any point, and that was only with one bathroom functioning. And this time I went in April, we had 2 bathrooms functioning, which it definitely does help. But yeah, it was never an issue even with just the one bathroom. It just all works itself out. One thing I will note is that the temple room can get pretty stuffy and smoky, just due to all of the incense and mapacho, which is sacred tobacco, that is being used throughout the duration of the ceremony. And though it wasn't a deal breaker by any means, it was just something that I did notice. And another important thing to note is that during ceremony nights, no one is allowed to leave the temple room at any point. And the reason for this is because the shamans are constantly doing their best to protect and cleanse the space as well as the participants, because they believe that once you're under the effects of the medicine, that your energy field then becomes very open, putting you at risk for any dark energies or spirits that are lingering around to then enter into your energy field. And this is why you will always see the shamans smoking on their mapacho and blowing it over the participants as well as the medicine, because essentially this is a way to protect and cleanse the space as well as the participants. Another reason why they use the mapacho during ceremony is it's a way to call on the spirit of ayahuasca before the ceremony begins. So now I'm going to be covering the ayahuasca diet and food. So in regards to the ayahuasca diet, it is very important and highly recommended that you adhere to very clean and healthy eating before, during, and after the retreat, as you are preparing your mind, body, and soul for the work that you are about to do with the medicine. If you look at your body as a vessel, you want it to be as clean and pure as possible before entering ceremony, because you are then showing the spirit of ayahuasca your commitment, discipline, your intention to the entire process and the work that you're about to do with her. And another obvious reason is simply to make the purging process a lot easier for you. So Arkana will provide a detailed outline of the diet you're supposed to follow before, during, and after the retreat. But just to give you an idea, of course, the food is one aspect of it, but you're also supposed to refrain from any sexual activity, refrain from alcohol and drug use, and limit your screen time on your phone and social media and things like this. These are all part of the ayahuasca diet. And now in regards to the food, so I am someone who is a very big foodie, and let me tell you, the food at Arkana is some of the best food that I have ever eaten in my entire life. And I'm not just saying this to say it, I mean it with every ounce of my being. And it wasn't just me who felt this way, it was every single person on the retreat said the same thing, that the food was amazing. Like, you really truly feel all the love that the chef and the kitchen staff put into making such nutritious and delicious food. And the food there is very clean, very fresh. You'll often see the kitchen staff in the morning going around the garden and picking fresh ingredients for the day. Yeah, so the food is just so amazing. And honestly, the head chef that's working there is such a lovely human being. He really takes so much pride in what he does, and you really feel this while you're there. And yeah, honestly, I hope that one day Arkana and the head chef there releases a cookbook, because I know I would buy it and everyone else on the retreat would buy it too. So yeah, the food is really, really good. So now I'm going to be touching on my overall experience at Arkana. So to say my experience at Arkana was amazing is an understatement, because there truly are no words to express just how amazing and life-changing the whole experience was. Honestly, I have nothing but good things to say about Arkana, and I can't recommend them enough. They've honestly thought of every single thing possible to make your stay as comfortable and as special as possible. Like for instance, after ceremony night, just going back to my room and finding a hot water bottle on my bed, especially after a very long night of ceremony and purging, that hot water bottle was just the perfect touch and came in so handy. I would literally just tuck it under my shirt and fall asleep with it on my belly. So yeah, they have really thought of everything to make your stay as comfortable as possible. And in regards to the staff, honestly, every single staff that I have had an encounter with there, from the maestros to the facilitators to the chef and the kitchen staff to the gardeners, the cleaners, Jose, the owner, every single staff that I have had an encounter with there, you truly get the feel that they are there because they genuinely care and want to support you throughout your journey. And yeah, I'll just share like a quick reflection here. After every night of ceremony, just the amount of gratitude and respect that would wash over me for just how selfless the maestros and the facilitators have to be to dedicate their lives night after night to help us in our healing journey. Like, there are truly no words to understand the gratitude that I have for them, especially in those moments when things get intense or scary during ceremony, and just the amount of love, patience, warmth, kindness, but more importantly, how safe and held they make you feel in those moments. I just can't thank them enough for being there and holding space the way that they did. And yeah, it just really restores your faith in humanity, because if you think about it, you are essentially putting your faith and trust in complete strangers. And yeah, just the way that they care for you there, like, it really makes you feel like a little child all over again. So I cannot thank them enough. Yeah, and I just highly can't recommend Arkana enough. And yeah, as amazing as the whole experience was, if I had to choose one highlight or one favorite thing that really stands out when I reflect back on the experience, it would have to be the connections and bonds that you make with your fellow participants as well as the staff. Because you really find yourself by the first day opening up to one another and sharing very intimate and personal details that you may not even necessarily share with your friends or family. And I think the reason for this is because, you know, the majority of people who are there for the same purpose, and that is to heal and to make changes in their lives. And being there with the same purpose, I think, makes connecting a lot easier and makes being vulnerable a lot easier and without any judgments. And yeah, what you experience together throughout the duration of the week and during ceremony nights is just something so very special and so very sacred that no one else in the world will know or understand what it is you guys experienced in those moments during ceremony, and the energetic connection and bond that is being made on such a very deep level is something so very sacred. There really are no words for just how magical that whole group experience is. And you really do find that you become like a family by the end of it all. And Arkana does a really great job at making everyone feel very connected. They have you added to a WhatsApp group while you're there, so you can lean on each other for support in the group chat. And even after the retreat is over, you have that as a resource. If you need support with anything, you can message the facilitators, you can message the shamans and the group. And yeah, they do a very great job at responding and keeping in touch. And yeah, every single person that I have met on the retreats, they have made an impact on my life in some way, shape, or form. And I'm just so very grateful for the lifelong friendships that have blossomed as a result of this. And it really makes me understand that ayahuasca is a very communal medicine. I truly believe that it's meant to be done in a group setting. Like, I cannot picture my experience being any other way but being shared with my fellow participants on the retreat. And there's no right or wrong, but that's just like what I got out of it, was that ayahuasca is meant to be done in a group setting because it really makes the experience that much more magical and special. Okay, so now I'm going to be sharing some useful tips that I think you may find helpful. I got my glasses on here to help me see because I have really bad eyesight, and I have my notebook here to help me remember what I wrote down. So, okay. So number one, I highly recommend that you bring some sort of object that you can hold in your hand during ceremony as a way to help you anchor in those moments when you feel things getting a little intense. So for me, this time that I went in April, I brought a little crystal like this, and trust me, like, this really comes in handy because the first time I went in 2022, I didn't bring anything. Like, I didn't know any better. And yeah, funny enough, you're given these little flashlights at Arkana for during ceremony that you just click on anytime you need assistance or you need help going to the bathroom or anything. You just click it. But funny enough, that little flashlight actually became my anchor during the ceremonies. I don't know, I would just pick it up and hold it, and anytime things got intense, it really helped to ground me and remind me that I was still present and in my body. So yeah, this time around I came prepared and I brought my own crystal. Secondly, I highly recommend wearing loose fitting, flowy clothing to ceremony so that you don't feel restricted. Wear warm socks if you're going to the Sacred Valley, maybe not the jungle, but yeah. And bring like a sweater with a zipper that you can remove easily. Bring like a shawl that you can just throw over you if you feel you're getting cold or anything. Arkana does provide blankets, but you know, sometimes you just want that extra layer. So I recommend bringing a sweater and also bringing a shawl. Number 3, I recommend bringing a journal and a pen so that you can document any highlights throughout the week, and after ceremony, if you want to write things down to help you not forget, it's very handy to have. Number 4, I highly recommend packing an eye mask and packing earplugs, especially if you're sharing a room with somebody. This comes in very handy so that, so that your roommate doesn't feel like they're disturbing you or anything. You can just let them know, like, don't worry, I got my earplugs and eye mask on, so you don't have to worry about the lights or anything. Yeah, I always find that very handy. Even when I'm traveling by myself and I'm not sharing a room, yeah, I always pack it anyways. Number 5, I also recommend packing baby wipes and packing a water bottle. Arkana does provide water there in cups, but just to give you that extra protection so that you're not spilling things during ceremony, I recommend bringing a water bottle with a lid. You're not allowed to drink during a ceremony because drinking water can make you feel even more nauseous and make you purge more, but it's just good to have just in case and for after ceremony, and also during the week when you're not in ceremony. Yeah, so this comes in handy too. Not related to Arkana so much, but more so in regards to traveling in Cusco and the altitude, because it can take a few days for your body to adjust to the altitude. So it's very, very, very important that you do not do anything too strenuous the first few days you're there. Just take your time when you're walking. Don't do any strenuous excursions or anything like that, because you really don't want to risk getting ill before the retreat starts. So yeah, that is one thing to keep in mind. Like, you'll even notice when you get off the plane in Cusco and you're walking through the airport. For me, I noticed that I was already experiencing the shortness of breath. And my first day there in Cusco, I did some walking around and shopping, and just doing light walking, I was already starting to feel a little dizzy. And actually there was one point where I needed to take a break and sit down on the sidewalk because I got pretty dizzy. And luckily enough, there was an older woman there who was so kind and offered me some of this agua de Florida, which it comes in very handy, especially with the high altitude. You will notice that this is used a lot during ceremony as well. So pretty much what you do is you just pour a little bit in your hand, and then you rub your hands together, and then you inhale a few times, and that helps to bring the nausea and any dizziness symptoms that you're experiencing to come down a bit. So yeah, I was very grateful for that woman who helped me, and she recommended that I buy this. And I went to a store across the street and ended up picking up a few. They come in different sizes. This is like the mini size, and then this is the medium size, and there's a larger size. And even on excursions, you will see the tour guides carrying this around just to be prepared in case that anyone on the tour experiences altitude sickness. This comes in very handy. And yeah, actually during ceremony, as I mentioned, they do use this. They use this as a way to cleanse the space as well. And they have extra bottles during ceremony that you can use anytime you're feeling nauseous, or you feel like you want to cleanse yourself of anything. You just rub it in your hands and just like wipe it all over you. So yeah, that comes in very handy, and I highly, highly recommend it. Another thing that you can buy for the altitude sickness is coca leaves and coca candy. And you don't get high from this or anything, but it does help with the symptoms that you may experience from the altitude. So what you do with the leaves is you just put a little bit in your mouth and chew it on the side, and you may find your mouth feeling a little numb. That's normal. But yeah, it really does help with the altitude sickness. And actually, coca leaves are very, very, very sacred in Andean culture, and you will see them everywhere pretty much. And highly recommend drinking coca tea while you're down there. Your hotel will probably serve this for free, so it's important that you drink it throughout the day because it really does help with the altitude. And if you're bringing a water bottle, you can simply put some leaves in it and then add hot water to it and just carry it with you so that you're prepared for that. And last but not least, my number one tip for you would be to go into this experience with an open mind, an open heart, trust the experience, and surrender to anything that comes your way. Because one thing I will note is that the medicine always knows what you need. And yeah, this cannot be more true. You know, it's very important to have an intention, of course, but what I've learned over the course of this experience is that just being really open-minded to what comes your way and surrendering to it makes the whole process a lot easier. And of course, like I said, intention is important. It's a way to help ground you when things may get intense during ceremony. You can remind yourself of your intention, of course. But, you know, sometimes the lesson that you receive from the medicine may be completely different from your intention. And even though it doesn't make sense in that moment or at the time, eventually things will make sense and you will understand the lesson that you receive. And yeah, just trust that what you receive is only guiding you to your highest self. So yeah, I hope that you found this video to be helpful in some way. And if there's anything that I missed or didn't cover and you want more information on, please don't hesitate to reach out or leave a comment down below. I'll be more than happy to help in any way that I can and answer any questions that you may have for me. So yeah, thank you so much again, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye for now. Take care.